you read through the legal material that was in
Not the legal stuff. I was reading through a lot of the stuff that was on the site, and my brain was basically firing on all cylinders, thinking about just the direction that we want to take. Initially, we were thinking around content. How is it that we can actually create the type of content that we would want people to kind of jump on board? This kind of narrative-driven engagement that that we want to offer. Um, but what we're realizing is that just given the time constraints that we have, it might make a bit more sense just to focus on the actual platform and to engage people for the content, you know, engage people for the content to really give a fluid way of integrating the content with kind of the game schema and the content schema that they're imagining. I could totally see where you
Right.
guys fit because I was thinking along those lines on a couple. I mean, of course, I come from. Well, I've spent a lot of time uh, thinking through DAOs, you know, decentralized autonomous organizations, and how is it that we might be able to superimpose a DAO in real life, you know, and navigate people through it in a very fluid way. And of course, I thought gamification, something entertaining, and I mean, nothing like what you guys have. You guys go like really into depth. I I originally wanted to do something very spiritual and very much like walking with spirits, and for it to be kind of like the overall architecture of the engagement of the user experience, we kind of decided against that. But what I think is a really great opportunity is to start thinking around how to integrate like what it is that you guys are developing onto our platform and to really engage people who are developing that type of dynamic content and and bring them on board, you know, and give
Right.
them kind of like a platform where we get the users and other content creators bring the users on, and then you're an offering as well as others, you know, on top of it.
Like focusing on the chiefs or the generals,
Yeah, exactly. So
have them bring their tribes.
yeah, exactly. Let them bring their tribes. That's exactly what we're thinking. Might make a whole lot more sense, you know. And of course to look at other enterprise applications for it too, you know. Conversation with Mark too. I gave him your site info and took a look at it also, and we're both in agreement that that is the course that we want to take. And as far as content creators, we definitely want to bring in premier content creators. Not just, I, that feels like such a limiting label. I know it's, but you guys know what I mean. Like the generals that bring
Spectrum.
the generals that bring their tribes. You know.
Right. And how freaking which kind of goes from the base level of like the novice, really gritty, someone just learning, all the way up to the full cut and polish.
Yeah.
Right. Like full theatrical cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We were thinking, we had a lot of that in mind, in like how can we make this as inviting and diverse as possible. And one of the easiest ways we could think of on top of the limited experience was generally just kind of mimic the way others have already done it and been very successful, like Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in featured categories. We could classify them according to like certain characteristics, like where do they rank according to these different metrics, and have those as like little flags.
Hashtag.
Just like in a lot of the I got thrown off the content distribution channels like Cody, for example, or Netflix or whatever, IMDb, the TV database not networks, they all use different types of flags to identify little shortcuts of a key meaning, like
Mhm,
what's the Rotten Tomatoes score, you
mhm,
know? And that's all just popularity, but how can we get deeper into substantial values that are like positive value flows to have those rise up, not just the best cut and polished finished product, but everything else that went into it. How
mhm.
was their engagement? Like we were just watching this really funny uh, detective show, like detective
The Gourmet Detective.
gourmet detective. That's what it's called.
Mhm.
Really cheesy. Anyway, uh, 5-star rating for food analysis and stuff like that, right? And then there was a journalist that ended up destroying an actor's career. They lost like a 3-picture deal
Mhm.
because the journalist caught that actress completely going batshit crazy on the set of one of her jobs, uh, like with a complete lack of professionalism, bullying, putting people down and everything. So obviously, yeah, you don't want to work with someone that's going to be having these kind of attributes. And we've heard for decades how that is a specific instance that a lot of the people in the acting field um, encounter, and it's a frustration. It's a frustration for the bankrollers. It's a frustration for the directors. The you keep going down the line. It's not good for anybody.
Mhm.
But because of the name, they get a special pass. And those special passes, when not kept in check, can become very destructive.
Mhm.
So in a nutshell, yeah, we've been thinking a lot about a lot of the same stuff too.
I would say this. I can't wait to share. I think that we're talking about a lot of this stuff, but there are some key differences that I think you guys will be pleased. And I can't wait to see you wrap your head around and kind of adapt to what you guys are doing. I know you guys are going to go nuts with it, and I can't wait to share it. Um,
Awesome.
but I think it opens up a little bit. I think it opens up what you guys are doing a little bit more. And yeah, I can't wait for you to wrap your minds around it. Please send the NDA. I wanted to check in and say that I did read through it, and my synapses are definitely firing. I definitely feel optimistic that there is definitely a collaborative basis for our connection.
Have you one of the key entry points that we've been talking about for gamification and expanding the scope of the story based on an individual's perspective is through a story that I wrote in 2007 called Quantum Twin in the Nightmare. Did you look at that blog?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a chance to.
So it's like the third blog on the homepage.
Hold on.
Should be the third one. And when you go into it, it just gives a little synopsis idea of what that's about. And you can click on the link to the story and it'll open up a Google document. And it's an 11-page story that I wrote in 2007. And so that is one of the areas that we've uh, set down as a entry portal. There are other entry portals that we can go through, but that one has a dynamic attribute to it that not all of them will. Some of them will be very focused on the environment, whereas others will be focused on industry, and others will be focused on arts, and like that. But
Zombie apocalypse.
right.
Uh-huh.
So with the mirror, it's quantum. So we're talking infinitesimal to the entirety of everything,
Uh-huh.
and
No, no.
anywhere in between.
Mhm. And I can't wait to tell you guys more of what we're doing. I the quantum story, the game story, Quantum Quinn and the
Yeah.
Nightmare. That's the one you're talking about.
Yep.
Okay.
It's kind of like a cross between Velveteen Rabbit and the Magic School Bus animated cartoon
Mhm.
series.
It's kind of short. Is it? It's kind of short.
Yeah.
Is it? That's
Yeah.
what it is. Oh no 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 no. There's a link to it.
There's a link to the story. So that is
Okay, I
just a
found it. Right.
synopsis and an overview of how the story can be put into a game, 3 different game portals so
Hmm.
far that have been created, and we could continue adding on to that,
Okay.
right? But
Yep.
there's an actual background story to it that you can go to and discover as well. And it's just a kid's story. It's an 11-page kid's story, and it's just
I'm genuinely very interested. Genuinely very interested. Content within the direction that we're going, content is going to definitely be important. And there is something else that I have in mind that I think that you guys are, is more than serendipitous that you guys are doing this, because there's a story I have in mind that you guys might be able to help facilitate also, you know. And we're working out the kind of like the collaborative architecture and how people would be remunerated for their contributions. And um, uh, they're they're worked out within a specific format for the investors that we're seeking to come on and help us. So we might have to work something out where we bring you guys on as designers at first or something like that. Would you guys be okay with that?
Sure.
yep.
Yeah, you
We're
gonna be okay?
we're
Okay, so
infrastructure builders and designers by trade. Yeah.
okay, cool, cool. So I might have to bring you guys on as designers first, and then we can just like figure out like, okay, with this entity that you guys are plugging in to us, how that would
Mhm.
look like, and then to negotiate terms.
It would
Um,
it would most likely be on a contract of services basis.
mhm.
We have a contract of services agreement that we can forward to you. It's part of that packet
Okay.
that was given to you
Manual.
for the manual and everything. But I
Mhm.
can highlight that section specifically so that you can review that first. All right.
Okay. Okay. So my thing was like the G code. Um, Same thing I was thinking, that we have this sort of life as it happens guide, but I wanted to really appeal to kind of the Instagram generation, the Snapchat, Instagram,
Yeah.
very poppy, you know, like this um meditations of Marcus Aurelius set to hip hop aesthetic, you know.
I like Marcus Aurelius.
I love Marcus Aurelius.
Oh yeah.
So, so that's what I was thinking, where you leave these little markers for people, and these things kind of like pop up when they have a contextual basis, and in its guidance. G code is a gentleman's code, you know, but G code, like, you know, like you're a G in hip hop, it's like you're a you're either a gangster or you're like an OG, you know, like someone who's seasoned.
There's a little bit of a spectrum in it, depending on
It,
the geographical culture and everything too. Yeah, like
there is.
we have West Side G's and
Yeah,
East Coast
exactly,
G's and
exactly,
yeah,
exactly, exactly. So the
yeah.
G code was just that, like
Mhm.
meditations of the streets or meditations through life within that particular hip hop aesthetic. And
Yeah.
all of that came out of like I said, the fire path, the script that I wrote a while ago too, where I, I I was thinking around something rather similarly. Um, and the tech that we build, we're still in the process of just kind of like ironing out still, is supposed to be the platform in which we're going to deliver this, you know? And I got so caught up in the actual platform, the story development, and really thinking through all of this stuff. It felt like a heavy lift because how the hell am I going to think through all of this stuff and still stay within that creative space, you know? So you guys are really,
Right.
you guys could really like be a godsend, you know, because I can just basically kick it with you guys and get super creative
Oh yeah.
and you guys could hold that space too, you know, and we can just like still somewhat calibrate the tech to make sure that that it can fit and other people who are doing something similar that's about coordinating human efforts towards better ways of sense making and collaborating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can plug in and there's so many things, so many applications for those types of systems and they 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 span all over spectrum of human life. So I can't wait to go a little bit more deeper. Please just take a look at the NDA, sign it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get a little bit more creative with you guys too. In a very short term, we will be able to work out something in terms of like again to bring you guys into
Cool.
yeah
Yeah. Yeah.
be remunerated for
Yeah.
what you guys are kind of doing. I like it. I like it. I see where the thought is, and that's where the value is most to me. You know, whether it's the most value just in the creativity and all of the things that you guys are touching all at once, because that's exactly what we need. 'Cause it was rather difficult for us because one of the reasons why we didn't just jump straight into like the G code and creating those things was who's going to get it? You know, do we focus most of our energy on that or just the actual platform and then just revisit that stuff later on? You know, we just focus the energy
Right.
on the platform, but you guys seem to really jump head into the creative and the actual charting the journeys and the journey architecture. So there's a value there that we'd love to tap into and I'd love to tap into your creative um, spaces.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we want to inspire and spark those soul sparks everywhere and those creative sparks and all these sparks that we can get generating in a positive direction. They start creating an interference pattern, kind of like what you see in quantum physics. Right now we have a negative interference pattern that's occurring with humanity, and when we start doing these sparks in connection with each other, we're creating an opposite interference pattern because it's distributed, because it's autonomous, because we have the little pods everywhere that are developing. And so the more that we can nurture those little pods, the stronger they become for that force of good to transform humanity to where it needs to be, not where it is
I'm,
today.
I'm with that. I'm definitely with that. I'm 100% with that. And I think we can deliver that in a way that makes good sense and good business and that's sustainable also.
Right.
Yeah.
In the manual, I know you're just going to be jumping for joy, like really excited to see it. We didn't get very far, but the whole idea was like, okay, how can we tie these things together in a sensible way that makes sense to everybody? Pretty simple, have processes built in, all the reasoning why, and build in samples all as placeholders. So we're focusing on the structure and the format of it to be able to have things just drop in as they do, because we know constantly whenever you're working on something, just like you were talking about with your play, you get these great ideas and then now you got the platform on your mind, and then you have other things drop in and you end up needing to consider all these different aspects all at the same time. Like, okay, how can we do it just fundamental? Start with the basics. How bulletproof and solid can we make this from what we've been able to pull, and bridge that from the solid and accurate all the way out to whatever it might be. The fantasy, the perspective,
Yeah.
the experiences, and that does directly go to the sense making aspect, because how do people correlate things and what's in their mindset, putting them, what positions them into their mindset to look at things a certain way, to then go make sense of it, and what are the things that, if it was tweaked just a little bit, if one little thing had changed, like someone walked by just the day before or 10 minutes before you come to the situation and puts a smile on your face by showing some sort of gratitude. They offer you a drink or something like that, you know, something just to cheer you up, because they know it can be viral, and that can have it can have literally life-changing effects with just those small degree increments.
You guys are gonna love, you guys are absolutely gonna love it. And
Right.
you'll, I know it sounds a little bit, I hope it doesn't sound in any way confusing, how much parity that I'm saying that we have. I think that once you guys are able to sign that stuff and I'm able to um to reveal a little bit more, you're gonna dig it. You're gonna dig it. It might be some limitations. There might be some limitations that I can't wait to see how you guys creatively go around it. But yeah, there are a few things I'd love to get your minds on. A couple of design issues
Okay.
that I'm foreseeing, but I'm also foreseeing a couple of neat fixes, I think,
Mhm.
as far as like how we might adapt fully like what it was that I was looking at on your,
Right.
you know. So can we set a goal for to get that back and then to talk again?
Yeah, like
'Cause
maybe an
Absolutely.
hour or so, if you want.
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Do that. Do that. Do that.
And please review the collaborators agreement that I just sent you. That is one that we're actually building with Zeke. I have to re-edit it to make it for the chapter 13. It looks like it didn't do that right, but so you'll see some edits in pink that don't pay no mind to that. You know, because we would be able to edit it based on what our agreement with you
Yeah,
would
we can
be.
all go with the flow.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, yeah,
pull
yeah.
from it.
We'll figure it
So,
out.
to go back to what I was saying is, we've got a basic structure of caricatures, or I have to say, as far as like quests, you got like your journeyman and master and
Okay.
stuff like
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
And we
Yeah.
filled in some hyperlinks in there to try to provide a little bit of context. And one of my favorite ones there is under warrior, we've got an urban warrior link that goes over to, I think it was like a YMCA type thing. It's a recording of some kids talking about their life and how they perceive a warrior in today's time out in the urban areas. And it sounds like it's on the East Coast over in some rougher neighborhoods. So I'm like, yes, this is definitely an area that needs to get hit, you know, because in my background, I had a diverse, uh, I had opportunities for diverse cultural immersion. And so I knew people and became friends with people that were, just to highlight, like 13th Street, West Side, Bloods, Crips, West Side, you know, and how they have beef. I'm like, you know what? I judge you on an individual basis. You know, 101 is amigo, you know, and whatever you do on your time, don't include me on it if I'm not cool with it.
Mm,
That's where our boundary is, you know. If you guys all want to get together, if you want to like aim towards getting along and
mm,
meet like in a neutral point or something like that, I'm cool with that. But if
mm,
things get hairy where people don't keep their grounding, you
mm,
know, and stay calm, they want to get heated like someone that's highly immature, I'm out. I want nothing to do with it, because I also had to balance where I was going to be on either side of the bars,
mm,
because my family came from law enforcement and were active in law enforcement at that time too, and I went into it in the future. Like, I want to keep myself clean for the future because I want to minimize all the obstacles I've got. Like, one of my grandfathers was a preacher,
mm,
and he did a lot of witnessing of his own. And I pulled from that um, Nicky Cruz, which I learned about in grade school long before I found out that my grandfather even hung out with him,
mm,
you know. And I've seen a lot of the different things that go on and what causes those things. Usually someone going on the other side of the track and constantly repeating that is
mm.
due to certain things that are completely avoidable.
Yeah.
If we pay attention to them, you know, it's usually a coping issue where they don't have proper coping mechanism skills.
Mhm.
They don't have the support mechanisms in place, like the social support. The family structure is usually dysfunctional. You
Mm.
know, there's a lot of harmful stuff going on, and it usually starts at a very early age.
It's systemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, it's
yeah,
very systemic. It's very systemic. And it's the funny thing is, like, when people talk about systems, or when people think about systems, they're thinking like, okay, there's some place where you can look at this, and this real asserted plan, this really deliberate plan that goes like this with this particular intention. Um, and that intention is specifically that. I mean, their
and it
external
can go sideways real fast too.
their externalities, they're externalities of some rather benign systems, some rather benign things that we take for granted. And when these things cascade downwards to like areas where people are at the margins, it kind of exacerbates what their situation looks like. They serve as like some pretty bad impediments. And what I was thinking was like, okay, how is it that we can create kind of those little suggestions at those intersections, you know, those little suggestions at
Right.
intersections where one is prompted to maybe take a different direction, you know. Um, that's
While being mindful of what might be going in their state, like they might be really fragile or hypersensitive to a button.
yeah,
They need a little bit more encouragement than that. So how can we bridge those points while defining them as a person as well as what they've gone through in
yeah,
order to best support and help them get up out of that situation?
yeah, exactly. Or to help them help themselves out of the situation. Sovereignty is extremely important, you know.
Yeah.
None of us want to take on the role of this paternalistic guardian at the gate, you know. I think that the idea is to definitely respect sovereignty, to, and I like the spirit journey, the spirit quest that you guys have kind of encapsulated your offering. And
But we're
I
not calling it the Spirit Quest. We're just calling it the Soul Spark game because everybody understands what soul is and they don't get hung up on uh, arbitrary definitions for spirit. It's for
yeah,
soul, where they do for spirit, because we know soul.
yeah,
Soul is where we are all supposed to be uh, operating from in our everyday lives. And to learn more about how we can do that, everybody goes to church or to some faith to look for those answers. And the more that we can empower people to find the answers within, the more empowered they will be in entirety and be able to share that spark with others in our community, whether it is through their churches, their schools, their public events. It doesn't matter, you know, we're
without repeating
right.
the same roadblocks, not learning from previous experiences that others have gone through. Like the the big differences between like Mormons and Catholics or Protestants and Jews, and like guys are all in the same mindset.
Yeah.
You're just looking at things a little bit differently and saying, I'm different. Okay, well, do we need to limit ourselves in that microcosm area?
You know, saying that everybody has that reflection within themselves. Bring that.
Oh, I want to have so many conversations with you guys. You guys are opening up like a lot of doors. And when I feel a little bit freer to talk, we can just like really jump in. Because there's a lot, there's a lot there that we can go into. And short of social construction, just these type of systemic architecture, uh, real life as it happens, engagement, games. I Yeah, I think we have a lot to talk about there. I think we have a lot to talk about there. And we have a perfect platform to put it on.